Welcome, Gotcha players, to another ShawnSetGO video. Today, we're going to be talking about Zenless Zone Zero and some of the things that I think, now that I've had a bit more time into the game, things that I wish would change in Zenless Zone Zero. A lot of these are just quality of life things that I think would improve. Mainly on the front end of the game, because of course I am still very early in the game. But with that being said, I think these would be things that would improve the overall quality of the game by focusing on the things that I think bother people the most. And so a couple of those things that I'm talking about, we're going to be talking about today, are some of the things that really a lot of people have mentioned before, but I think the things that I want to talk about more than anything is the TVs. I think a lot of people have mentioned them before, and at first, I honestly didn't quite get what people were saying. I felt like the TVs weren't that bad because it was at least a cool concept. But now I think I know exactly what people are saying when they say they don't like the TVs. I see how it can be burdensome, how it can get tiresome, and it's not because of the concept of the TVs. It really is not. I think they're fine, especially when you hit like the speed up mode. Now, granted, it would be nice if I could see what people are saying when that happens. Maybe as some text, like I can never see the text. It's like because you hit fast mode, you can't see the text anymore. I can read pretty fast if you just let me see what it says, but what I really want to talk about is the amount of time that is spent in Zenless Zone Zero that doesn't allow you to do anything other than just read text. I truly think the issue with the TVs isn't the TVs themselves, but amount of time that is spent between combat. I think there's too much time spent between combat scenes, and now they do switch it up. It'll be like comic panels side by side, then it'll be dialogue with the three characters side by side in different angles, and then it'll be dialogue choices with Bell and Wise, which, by the way, still bothers me that I didn't pick Wise and I see him almost all as much as I do see Bell. I honestly don't want to see him as a character, and I don't want to play another character because I see him just as much. Like the only difference is I don't walk around with him. Which isn't really my concern, unless they're gonna add outfits to these characters. So something that bothers me about the TVs isn't the TVs, but how much time is spent between combat that makes the TVs just seem insufferable, because every single section of this game is just littered with too much dialogue and too much yapping. So my biggest pet peeve currently in the game, and I'm sure this gets worse because people have told me it gets worse, is the amount of dialogue that just gets uninterrupted. And I don't care if you switch the style of dialogue, it's still dialogue if people are talking, and the only thing I can do is either select something or just click to keep it going. Second, we're gonna talk a little bit about the combat, like a little bit of a side tangent there with the TVs, but the second is the dodge and switch mechanics. I think that while it is fun to turn your brain off and just use switch mechanics, too often it's not always clear when to dodge whenever you have range attacks, or really how it registers itself. A lot of the issues that I had with Weathering Waves in their parry mechanics is that a lot of characters have different timing in their swings, and so it does matter when those hit, and that's the difficulty. But in this game, it's not me related, it's entirely the NPC related. It's hard to register where those attacks happen. And it begins to feel like, and this is not to compare Zenless Zone Zero to a Dark Souls game, it begins to feel like Dark Souls games where it's impossible to tell the timing. It's not that the enemy is hard, it's that you get hit, because it's hard to register when actually you're swinging for it. Now, all you fighting game players, maybe you know a lot better, and maybe that's something that I don't get. But to me, the dodging and switch mechanics, now switching mechanics is much easier than the dodge, but the dodge with the heavy counter is the one I prefer, because I use Corin, I believe is the maiden character I have, and with her
Standing by.
her ability, I much prefer to use her hold just because her attacks are so satisfying to use that I'd rather do her heavy attacks, because the way she holds the saw blade to me is just, I don't care how bad this character is on a tier list. I like this character a lot. And so I much prefer to do that versus switching. Also, switching to me is a bit haphazard. Now, I do like the animation overall, but honestly, I don't like how it kind of just removes choice from you, in the sense that it just kind of keeps going and going until it stops. And it doesn't necessarily land back where you started, which is kind of where I want it to land. If I'm trying to main a certain character and it's always leaning me towards a singular character, then I kind of want some choice in that. A lot of times whenever you use a character who has some sort of range, the characters that I use that do that are Sukaku or Nicole. They both have abilities that kind of put you in a position to where assisting with another character happens quite often. And often, instead of picking the character I wanted to pick, it'll always default Ambi, and that's not necessarily the character I wanted to. And I think the reason why is because Ambi is a stun character, and that's why. But personally, I think that lack in freedom of choice makes the combat a little more spammy than it needs to be, and I think that would offer a lot more interesting versatility to the combat if they change that. So third is one of my least favorite things that have come to the game so far, and that is immersive story. I understand that a lot of people want to just a linear experience, and that's totally fine. But often doing something on the side is just natural to the game, and no option to turn it off is just frustrating. Whether that's like me wanting to leave this room because Wise is on the inside, he wants to talk to me, and I want to grab something really quick on the outside. It's just frustrating. I don't see a purpose to not have a turn off switch. It just seems super simple to have. Now, like you could say well, it won't be a problem eventually, but I think that turns players off whenever they can't do a side quest, because a lot of gacha games is side quests in between everything. So an option to turn that off would be fantastic. Fourth, the comic strips. The comic strips come in a couple formats. My least favorite being is the one where it shows an image, and then as you click each individual click, it pops up a chat bubble. My second least favorite being the ones where they automatically appear with paragraphs of text that scroll down, and then if you click one too many times, it skips over it. Please, 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 devs at Zenless Zone Zero, give me an option to read it like a manga. Give it a scroll down option, and if I stay on that panel, it reads out the dialogue, because it is so frustrating to have to wait for each individual click or clicking too far. Instead, I just want to read through it. Let me read through it instead. I think that'd be much more useful. But it just, I've read digital manga for a long time now. Takayumi viewers and users, you know where you're at. But please give me that option. It would be so much more satisfying, so much easier to go through that dialogue. So much time is wasted. And my first point being that there's just too much dialogue would feel a lot less intrusive if that was an option. And fifth, honestly, go back to the fourth. My big point with that is that it feels like I'm going through an animated PowerPoint PowerPoint, an animated PowerPoint, to where you put in the slides and they come in super slow, and then the text comes in from the bottom and it's like, and then something comes in and does this. It feels like that, and I hate that. I hate the Microsoft PowerPoint feeling. So that's why I really dislike that. And last. This is something a lot of gachas do, so I'm not just outright blaming Zenless Zone Zero. But honestly, I don't like how simplistic stats are. This is something that I see a lot in these type of games, but you see stuff you see stats and you're like, wait, what does impact mean? And then pen ratio, and then Animali proficiency, Animali mastery. they're super vague whenever they get more complex, and in reality all people are going to do is they're going to maximize the amount of crit rate. Wow, that's really sad, 5%. And then they're going to focus on crit damage, then they're going to focus on attack, and it just becomes super basic. Like, can we have characters who are tanky, but we don't just give them defense, we give them a complex stat like strength? You know, strength focuses, like, gives you something like attack power, but also gives you health. You know, agility gives you something like attack, but also crit rate. Can we give someone like if you do vitality, it's going to be something like HP, maybe health per second. Give me complex stats that actually mean something instead of just giving me the most basic bare bones stats and these vague stats that just don't really mean anything to me, because really all people are going to focus on is crit, and then eventually like the elements, you know, if that can mix into there, they'll do that. But they become so horribly basic that honestly it just feels like there's no purpose of me ever reading this screen, or ever trying to focus on something, or like, let me try a defense build, let me try a attack build, you know, let me try a different W engine to try to see how this works. I understand that certain characters can only have so many loadouts to make them more versatile. That's totally understandable, but I want to see it to where I can have a set of stats and go, I'm focusing on this stat, or I like this stat. I feel like stats can read so much more complex than they currently do, and this is something that I think is an issue with a lot of gachas, in that they can, I've seen it to where like AFK Journey is a great example of this, where it's like you're really only focusing on like 4 or 5 stats with a character, and really actually it's only 2 that you're trying to like get up. But there's so little like opportunity to either change it, or there's so little opportunity to focus on something, or to actually have stats that matter in a different way. Like just saying attack, just saying crit rate, like it means so little. And it makes the characters more basic than they need to be, and I think they could be a lot cooler. And also, lastly, please get rid of this stance. It bothers me. This is like my favorite character to play with, and I don't want to look at it anymore. So that's my last complaint of the game currently. Now that being said, I am enjoying the game a lot. I'm enjoying the casualness of the game, but I'm also enjoying how fun the combat is. But please, the death by PowerPoint and the amount of dialogue that comes in between with 0 combat, or the combat being 2 sets of mobs in the same area that I've faced in the past like bit of the game, and then just doing another side of that like 0 like options or exploration within the little small zones, and like, oh, I was just here a second ago, except for I was on the right side, now I'm on the left side. And then I verse 2 mobs, and it's right back to dialogue. It's just the combat's so great. Like it's so great and casual. I know a lot of people are saying that eventually it's going to be like bullet sponges, anyways. But at least right now, it feels fun enough. It's just there's not enough of it. So that's my personal feelings on it. How many of these points did you agree with? How many of these points did you like? Did you hate all my points? Like, comment on the video what you think. Of course, we do stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We do play Zenless Zone Zero, Wuthering Waves. Not as much Wuthering Waves right now. I'm playing a lot of Honkai Star Rail, and that's the reason, because there's so much content in Honkai Star Rail, and AFK Journey. So please check out my content on YouTube if you're already on YouTube. Hi, YouTube. And guys, as per always, may fortune favor your journey, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.